Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about why must medical billers and coders know medical terminology and some tips to help you learn. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Okay, guys. So I got an email, and we're gonna read it and get started. So here we go. The email says, I have a question. I'm taking medical billing and coding classes. Do you have to know medical terminology real good to be a biller or a coder? Because I don't know it because my class was only 5 weeks long. So here's the thing, guys. It doesn't matter if your class is 5 weeks long, 4 months long, 6 months long, or any other short time like that. It doesn't matter. You still have to know medical terminology and anatomy. And the reason that this is so important is because we read medical documentation all day long. And even if you are going to be a medical biller, you still need to know medical terminology. Why? Because sometimes there are certain diagnoses that are applicable to certain genders. And there's certain procedures that are applicable only to certain genders. If you can't recognize the difference in that, and you don't know the medical term, and you don't know what this procedure is, and you say, okay, well, these are the codes that we reported, let me go ahead and just submit it on because that's my job as a medical biller. Guess what? That insurance company is going to say, oh no, this does not match. I'm going to kick it back and refuse payment until you fix it. And okay, then it comes back to the biller, and now the biller's like, oh, I don't know why it's wrong. Guys, it's not about, well, they didn't teach me, or I didn't learn, or I had a short program. If you want to get into this business, you need to know medical terminology and you need to know anatomy. Period. End of story. There is no, oh, I didn't learn this, nobody taught me. You can teach yourself. Learning medical billing and coding is very independently driven. Very independently driven. There are more terrible schools like this, only 5 weeks long and claiming to teach medical billing and coding. There are more schools like that than there are really good schools, unfortunately. And this is what happens when they put coders out in the real world. Then they're ill prepared. And then when they're trying to hire somebody who has a certification, who is supposed to be ready, they're ill prepared because their instructor said, oh, you learn medical terminology on the job. Or it's not important for you to learn right now. Just learn how to look up stuff in the book or memorize this thing here. Or we're going to teach you these test-taking tactics and then you'll be able to pass and then get out in the real world and get yourself a really good paying job. Not really thinking about the quality of the coder that they're sending out into the real world, right? So this is what I'm telling you guys. If you are in a situation like this, they didn't teach you, it doesn't mean that you got to give up, right? It doesn't mean you got to say, well, they didn't teach me and this was a crappy program. So you're going to throw away all that money that you spent? The few $1,000s that you spent to go to this crappy program? No. It means you got to say, okay, let's regroup. Now, how do I learn medical terminology, Blue? They didn't teach me. Here's the thing you got to know. You learn your prefixes, your suffixes, and your root words. If you can learn those, it's about 600 of them, 600 or 800 of them, right? All together. That are like the basic ones. Then you're going to be able to piece words together, right? And you're going to be able to expand your medical terminology knowledge a lot faster than if you try to sit there and learn word by word by word by word. It doesn't work that way. Medical terminology is made up of Latin and Greek words, okay? So it is like learning a new language, but this does not go on your resume as under languages medical terminology. Don't do that, guys. When they talk about languages on your resume, they mean like English, Spanish, Italian, Japanese, Chinese. That's what they mean by that. Medical terminology is a skill. Okay, so let's just keep that, in mind. But yes, it's important for medical coders. It's important for billers to know medical terminology. Now, again, you can check out YouTube. I have left so many channels on YouTube so many times. And I will leave a whole list of all the medical terminology videos that I have on my channel in the description box below, guys. Please don't ask me what they are because I will not respond. When I get questions like that can easily be answered by looking in the description box after I say to look in the description box and you still ask the question, guys, I don't have time for that. I really don't. I don't mind questions, but they need to be that you've already done your research and then you say, okay, well, I found this, so what's the deal? then I'll ask the question, then I'll answer the question. But these questions lately of, not really doing the research, or I'm literally saying it in the video and they still want me to spoon feed them. I'm not spoon feeding, guys. I'm not. And we really need to stop the culture of the spoon feeding, because not everything is going to be handed to you. Now, when I tell you guys to check out YouTube and just type in medical terminology, and all these videos will all pop up. Medical terminology videos for every single thing. You can even put in prefixes, medical terminology, suffixes, medical terminology, root words, medical terminology. You will find videos specific to that. And then what do? You sit there and you listen to it over and over again. You sit there and listen to it while you're washing dishes, or while you're tending to the kids, or while you're cleaning your house. You can listen to these videos over and over again, because the key to adult education is repetition. And that is one of the things that you can easily do. It's free. It costs you nothing other than your time to sit there and listen to medical terminology videos. All right. There's also going to the public library. Now, whether you get a book that is 10 years old or 5 years old, it doesn't matter. Medical terminology is medical terminology. They are not discovering any new body parts. So with that in mind, you can get a older book for medical terminology and it will be perfectly fine. It will be perfectly useful. If you find yourself a workbook, and again, all the Amazon affiliate links, you don't have to click on them because the title is there, but all the affiliate links that I have for all the medical terminology books and the medical terminology flashcards, they're in the description box below. These are all under $50, okay? So it's meant to be there to, like, if you want to do flashcards, if you want to have that, I recommend making them yourself. But if people don't want to do that, that's the affiliate link is in the description box below. So just do that way, if you want to do that, if you want to spend a few bucks and work it that way, that is totally fine. The library is a fantastic place to find books for free too. I mean, obviously you just have to check them out and turn them in. But it's just a great place, and there's unlimited options for it as well. Now, when I see books out there that says medical terminology for medical coders, that's just a gimmick, guys. That book literally has the same things as another medical terminology book. The only difference is they slap the name for medical coders on it, because medical terminology books are a dime a dozen. So how do we shrink it down to a niche market? Oh, by putting medical coders on it, or medical billers and coders. Hey, now we've got this targeted audience, because I'm somebody who's a brand new medical coding student, and I type in medical terminology for medical coders and I see this book pop up. That's the book I'm going to pick, right? Because I don't know that every single book about medical terminology is going to cover a lot of the same things. So don't spend that extra money if you don't need to, guys. Some people have told me, well, I really like that, but if you like the book, fine. But what I'm saying is this: if you don't have that option, or if you're just out there, you just say, well, Blue, I don't have a lot of money, go to the public library and check out those medical terminology books. All you need is one, really, to get started. And you can just work through that book and learn as learn as you go. The thing about learning medical terminology is getting those three down: the prefixes, the suffixes, and root words. When you are in medical coding school, it is a constant thing with medical coders to learn medical terminology. My vocabulary for medical terminology is a heck of a lot bigger than when I started in 2008 because I learned the prefixes, suffixes, and root words. That's what I learned. And I learned how to piece the words together. And that made looking at words a lot more easier. When I see osteo, I see that it means bone, and so on and so forth. So those are the things that you will learn in time. But you have to learn this. This is not negotiable. This is not made for excuses. Oh, well, I didn't learn it because my school didn't teach me, or my teacher didn't teach me, or my teacher said that I'll learn on the job. They are a business. Schools are a business. It is up to you to be a well-rounded student. It is up to you to do your research when it comes to how to learn. My Patreon channel, and Patreon, if you don't know, is a lot like YouTube, but you pay to support the creator, which would be me. There are no commercials there on Patreon. But for my Patreons, what I have done is I have created crossword puzzles, and I have created word searches for medical terminology and for anatomy terms as well. And so with that, you know, you're able to exercise that part of your brain, like, okay, this is the definition of the word, so here's the crossword puzzle, let me go ahead and fill this in. So to me, that was a way that I learned. My mom used to make them for me when I was in school. So now I'm making them for all of my Patreons. And that's what I do there. And I know it has helped a lot of my subscribers there to learn medical terminology. And some of them have told me, you've made me hate it less. Because the thing about medical terminology is people get really overwhelmed having to learn a lot of new things all at one time. But the more you invest time in learning medical terminology, the easier it will be when you start looking at documentation, abstracting diagnoses and procedure codes out of it, or procedures out of your documentation, because you're going to understand the language. If you don't understand the language, you will always struggle with medical terminology, with a medical billing or medical coding, okay? Or if you're in a medical biller and coder position, you will always struggle. And you shouldn't have to struggle when all it is just opening up a book, working through a terminology book, and that's it. And there's a ton of workbooks on Amazon as well for medical terminology. There's cheap ones, okay? So it doesn't have to be expensive. You know, if you think that, oh, well, I can just skip that, I just want to learn how to look up the codes. Again, you are in the wrong, because you are always going to struggle. You're going to pick up things that don't apply. You're going to make yourself work harder because you're not going to be able to see things that everybody else will. And when you get out into the real world and you meet other medical coders, they're not going to help you along, especially if they know that you don't know medical terminology. Okay, so that's something that you have to really focus on. Just this time right now of learning medical terminology and of course anatomy will help you in the future. And with anatomy, all you really need to learn in the beginning, your bones, the organs, your muscles, and that kind of thing. So there's just very general, very user-friendly, beginner-friendly anatomy. That's what you really want to focus on. You don't want to get down and dirty into the deeper part of it, because that's just going to overwhelm you. But at least if you have an overall general understanding of the brain and the heart and the lungs, that's really going, and the rest of the organs obviously, but that's really going to get you in the right direction. And if you need to hang up posters, right? There's always posters that you can purchase from Amazon or wherever you get your books, and you can post them up. You can even download images from the internet for free. And there's a ton of really good anatomy pictures that break down everything, like the foot, all right? There's plenty for the foot and the hand. I've seen them. And breaking down all the other anatomy, right? All of it. And so you can print some of those off, hang them up wherever you're studying at in your study area so that you can see them, right? Because it's all about that changing up the stimulus. It's not just about reading a book, because if you tell people that they need to read, a lot of them are like, oh no, Blue, I don't want to do all that. Even though what 90% of what we do in a day as medical coders is read, okay? That's what you're getting into, all right? But if you change up the stimulus, like you start to listen to videos, or you even watch them, you even watch the videos, or you hang up the posters, that's something visual for you to engage your brain, and it's something for you to listen and things like that. So that's the thing that you want to do for yourself to make it easier. You know, there's a lot of people that really want to get frustrated immediately with medical terminology. Oh, it is so hard. It is not hard, guys. It is not hard. It is not a chore. You just have to break it down. Again, learn your prefixes, your suffixes, and your root words. If you can learn those, and again, there's about 600 or 800 of them, right? That are really big, right? if you can learn those, that's going to be your ticket to freedom when it comes to really understanding medical terminology and even learning your anatomy as well, okay? Because you're going to recognize those words. So, as I've said before, when you see those posters of anatomy in doctors' offices, it's not for the patients. It's to remind the doctors as well about their anatomy, because you have to constantly have that stimulus in front of you, otherwise you'll forget it, right? So if you found yourself in one of these little fast-paced medical coding programs, so-called medical billing and coding programs that are like less than 8 months, and yes, I know, before y'all say anything, AAPC is a form, okay, but AAPC breaks their program down, okay? They break it down. The anatomy and medical terminology is separate from the medical coding. So I'm not talking about AAPC, because I have always said that if I'm going to recommend anything, I recommend AHEMA or AAPC, their online medical coding programs. So I do recommend the AAPC program. Yes, the medical coding part is very short, but when you couple it with the anatomy and medical terminology, it is 8 months. That is still a good length of program, but you can still tack on additional time to study as well. So it is a little fast, but because it's the whole program's 8 months is totally fine. I'm talking about these programs that are like less than like 6 months, really. Less than 6 months. Oh yeah, you'll learn it right away. And yeah, if you've been a nurse, and oh, if you've been in the medical field before, you'll pick it up way fast. There's a lot of people who find out the hard way that it is not as easy as a lot of people try to sell it, okay? If you actually told people what medical coding was all about, the fact that we have to read all day, we have to have an extensive medical terminology knowledge and anatomy knowledge, and we have to know about procedures, we have to know about the equipment that they use in procedures, we have to know about the medications, and we have to know about the different disease processes and the pathology of the disease and what are the symptoms that go with it. If you had to tell people all of this, do you think that there would be a lot of people signing up for medical billing and coding courses? Heck no. A lot of people would be like running for the hills. Oh no, I don't want to learn all that. Oh no, Blue, I can't learn that. Or I'm not smart enough. That's one thing that irritates the heck out of me. Whenever I hear somebody say, I'm not smart enough. It's one thing if you have other people telling you that you are not smart. But what makes me upset is when I hear somebody say, I'm not smart. You are. The only one stopping you is you, because now you're in your own way. It's one thing if, again, you have other people telling you, because you can always ignore them. I know it's hard, but you can. And it's all over mind over matter in that instance. But when you are putting yourself down, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because again, this is your career. It's your life. Life is not a dress rehearsal, folks. Life is not a dress rehearsal. And yes, I know we're supposed to be talking about medical terminology, Blue, not a life lesson. But it goes hand in hand, especially if you're trying to say, I can't learn this, because yes, you can. You absolutely can. When it comes to learning this, all you have to do is get into the driver's seat and start making the time for it. Start studying for it. 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes at a time, an hour at a time. No more than 1 hour at a time. Make your flashcards, go through the workbooks, and do things at a steady pace. Study however much you're going to study. I always tell people you need to study at least 20 hours per week when you're in a medical billing and coding program. And they look at me, oh no, Blue, and they got a ton of excuses. I'm going to tell you why you don't have an excuse. There's a lot of people out there who have a lot of things on their plate, and they still manage to find the time to study. If they can do it, you certainly can do it. But there's a lot of people that are so used to making excuses as to why. It's too hard. I'm not that smart. I can't do that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you absolutely can. And again, all you need to do is get that discipline. Get that discipline, and that will serve you well. Because once you get it, it's going to be hard for you to lose it, right? And once you get that discipline, you're going to be able to learn all the medical terminology. You're going to be able to learn all the anatomy. You're going to be able to learn how to properly code and do all of these things that really good, well-rounded medical coders can do. And then you are on your way to having a wonderful career, a career that will fulfill you intellectually and it will fulfill you for the rest of your life if you allow yourself to be immersed in it, and you allow yourself to learn what you need to learn instead of fighting against it. You can't fight against learning medical terminology, folks. You can't fight against learning anatomy, because that is a very important part of what we do. Very important. And again, I mean, billers are the last line of defense. It is your job to catch things that do not make sense before they get sent out. Kick it back before it gets sent for denial, right? Because if you're a really good medical biller, you'll be able to do that. Now, if you say, well, Blue, I've been doing this and I'm still kind of lost and I don't understand, then pick up the pace with the studies. Find you a really good medical terminology book and start working through it, guys. Start working through it. It's as easy as literally picking up the book, opening it up, and getting in there and start studying, okay? Or you can join my Patreon channel and check out what I have to offer there. It's $10 a month minimum. It's a minimum pledge. If you want to pledge only for 1 month, that's totally fine. You have access to everything. I do have a once a month study hall where it's the fourth the fourth Saturday of the month, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. It is an open forum. And it's just, if you have a question about medical coding or even medical terminology, you can come on in, ask your question. It is on Zoom, so you're live with everybody. And it's just a really great thing. I mean, I've had a lot of fun doing this the last few times I've done it. The next one is going to be on the 22nd, which is this Saturday coming up. So if you're interested, my link for Patreon, my Patreon channel is in the description box below. So, but that's my advice, guys. Learn your prefixes, your suffixes, and your root words. Do not run away from this because you need to learn this. This is absolutely imperative. Do not overwhelm yourself trying to learn words individually. Learn the prefixes and suffixes and root words. And start believing in yourselves, people. Start telling yourself, yes, you can, instead of I can't, I can't. Please don't put that on the comments. Don't do that to yourself, because that upsets me. It upsets me when I see people like that, especially adults. And I know it's really easy to put yourself down because, like, it's brand new. Yes, it is brand new, but it's not impossible to learn. I came from no background in medical. I was so far away from wanting to be in the medical field, it wasn't even funny. And yet I took to it like a fish to water. I was just like, okay, because I wanted something different for my life. And that was my why in the beginning. And then if you've watched any of my videos, I have already explained several times why I feel like medical coding saved me, literally, quite literally. And why I finally found my joy in life, which is this. I will never retire. Never, 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 never. As long as the good Lord will let me live, I will be here doing medical coding. Some form, some way, whether it is this or teaching or whatever. You know, I will be in the field somehow, some way, because I love it this much. And when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I've said that since the beginning of my channel in 2018. I'm just saying. So if this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share. If you've been studying today, leave that blue heart, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.